From Ford Publications, I'm Max Kinnaman, and this is The Den, where we go into the Tiger's Den and learn more about what's happening here at Fred T. Ford High School. Here at Ford, we've got a wide range of people, from teachers that have been here for 20 years to freshmen that haven't even been here one. Today, I will explore what 3 of our teachers do outside of school. One of these teachers is Kyle Huffman, who has 2 podcasts and a YouTube channel with his brother. I sat down with him to learn more about his passion for podcasting.
Hello and welcome to Overlapping Dialogue, a podcast of audio commentaries dedicated to discussing cinema that fascinates us in a way we hope fascinates you. We're your co-hosts, Kyle and Levi Huffman. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Levi.
Can you kind of explain what you do with your podcast? And
Sure. So I've got 2 podcasts. One's actually currently kind of on hiatus. My brother and I, we do all these together. Levi Huffman's his name. And that one is called Overlapping Dialogue, and that's where we talk a lot about films, doing a commentary over a film, making a little jokes along the way, but also making some observations. So we did that for, I think, the first 60-ish episodes. And then kind of the later 40, because we're currently on hiatus after episode 100, we decided, what if we did something a little different, where we took 2 films that don't seem as though they're exactly immediately would be a double feature, but let's pair them as a double feature. And this new one that we've actually recently started over the last few months is called Blowing Smoke, the officially unofficial Mad Men podcast, where we're actually doing audio commentaries of every single episode of the TV show Mad Men, which I don't know if you've heard of, but it was a huge show in the late 2000s all the way through the mid-2010s about this advertising agency in the 1960s, a period we both are in love with, and we really love that show. We're really enjoying that so far.
Mr. Huffman isn't the only teacher with an interesting passion. Down on the English hall during the school day, you may hear Eileen Quinn giving an English lesson, but 3 times a year over at Hart Square in Vail, you'll hear her giving a demonstration about one of only 2 functional cotton gins of its make and model in the United States right now. I asked her why she wanted to do this.
When the horse starts moving and all these wheels and belts start turning, the gin itself is powered. You have someone standing back here, maybe a couple people, pushing the cotton. It sounded at first like a really fun way to get a little bit more involved in the friend group here in Hickory that I had made. I've only been in Hickory for about 3.5 years. So when I was provided the opportunity, of course I said yes, because I really wanted to meet new people and do new things. And then I got to get a fun outfit to dress up in. And then I got really interested in the history. I actually got engaged at Hart Square. So it's become a really beautiful and important place for me.
Ms. Quinn also enjoys meeting people and learning more.
You do see the same people at the festivals every year. I obviously am working with the same volunteers. I have a family who I've seen them at every event that I've worked, and it's really special to see their kids growing up every year. And a lot of the people that are heavily involved in Hart Square lead very interesting lives to me. They're very into homesteading and traditional farming and gardening and ranching and really interesting stuff that I don't know much about. So it's a great opportunity to broaden my own horizons and hear about these people who are oh yeah, well, of course, this is happening because blah, blah, blah. And I don't even remember it because it's so far outside of my depth. But it's really cool to meet these people.
At this year's homecoming football game, a conversation between math teacher and basketball coach Nolan Whitener and construction teacher Spencer Klein led to the creation of a business that Coach Whitener and his fiancée work on together.
My fiancée and I, we were sitting here at the homecoming game. We were talking to Mr. Klein, who's a construction teacher, and we were talking about just engraving signs, and I was doing a lot by hand at first. We were trying to design stuff by hand with a handheld wood burn tool, and it took forever to do one little project, and it was very, I don't want to say unorganized, but it just wasn't clean. And so when we were talking to him, we started to look into lasers. And the best advice that we got at first was buy once, cry once. So when you're looking at these machines, you start seeing they're a big hunk of money. And we really just bit the bullet and kind of went all out, got us a machine, and we really didn't know what we were getting into at first. We didn't know what we were going to do, what we were going to design. We had some ideas. We started going into more cutting boards and doing designs on the cutting boards. And so that's really what kind of got us started with the machine.
Why did you want to start?
Well, we're both state employees, and if you ask any state employee, they always have a second job. And so to us, it was about finding something that we both like, because we are getting married in a few months, and we wanted something that when we go home, we can enjoy together. Really, with the machine and why we did it was just going to bring in just a little bit of profit, and we could have some fun doing different projects together.
Mr. Huffman's interest in broadcasting goes way back to his days in high school.
And we actually had a little radio station at South Caldwell High School that we actually broadcast kind of classic rock radio along with some school sports. And so this goes back almost 15 years, which is crazy to think about. But me and my cousin, who graduated the same time with me, we actually did a twice a week radio show after school. And so that was like my first time I'd ever like really talked to a camera, talked to an audience, not camera exactly, but broadcasting and talk to an audience. And we always had a lot of fun doing that. We really goofed off a lot of the time, and it was always a little surprising when people would come up to us like, "Oh, we love hearing y'all in the afternoons." It was almost a little bit of a letdown, because it's like, "Oh, I thought we were just doing this little thing ourselves and nobody was paying attention to it." So we got some nice little compliments over the years.
While Huffman had a passion for broadcasting at a young age, Coach Whitener and Mrs. Quinn's hobbies are more newly acquired. Is this kind of a new experience for you? Have you done any kind of business stuff before?
Never really done any business. We just kind of took a stab at it.
When I was in high school, history was my least favorite subject. I hated history class. I thought it was so boring and so pointless. But there's just something about being up there in these buildings and being surrounded by all of these beautiful artifacts. Like the room where I work, the gym, it's got artwork hanging everywhere and these like handmade sculptures just scattered throughout so that people can experience the history. So I guess I just almost felt like I stepped back in time the first time I went there, and that was like so special and so unique that I kept going back for more and meeting wonderful people who felt the same.
For Mr. Whitener's business, Christmas time is peak season. But Christmas time is also right in the middle of basketball season, and this brings up some challenges. What's it been like being the basketball coach and having peak season for selling being winter when you're making, a lot of customized stuff?
Well, it was very challenging, because to me, basketball is my hobby. That's what I've done for 20 some years now. And it was very challenging because we both knew how busy the season was going to be for basketball, and we were really just trying to take it slow and only do a few cutting boards and just make a little bit of extra change, and then next thing you know, it boomed. And so I was not trying to take anything away from basketball and still put all my focus there. So that's where I really utilized like my Saturdays, and when you put stuff on the laser, I had 45 minutes to an hour. If I need to make phone calls, if like other coaches talk, we all talk on the weekends. And so in between the laser doing its job and us maybe being done with ornaments, that's where I could really balance my schedule out. But I'm one of those people that I love staying busy.
Mrs. Quinn believes that the value of what she does goes beyond just entertainment. Why do you think it's important that you spend your time and that people come to Hart Square and people really spend time around not only history in general, but their local history of their area?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't want to turn into one of those like old people that's like, oh, technology is destroying everything. But I do think it's important for us to step outside of ourselves. And I think that with an increasing reliance on technology, it becomes almost harder and harder to force yourself to step outside of what you're comfortable with, right? These algorithms just feed you exactly what they know that you like, rather than challenging you to think in different ways or to, walk in someone else's shoes for a little bit. So I do think that going somewhere like Hart Square, which has almost no cell service, and of course the volunteers are never on their phones or anything, but you can see it in the kids, especially the really little ones, where they're like walking around with their big eyes, just looking at everything and wanting to touch everything and hear everything. And it's just a really beautiful experience.
Seeing people appreciate his product has been a fun experience for Coach Whitener.
And we made this custom tier tray for a guy's company that does catering for weddings. And so he contacted us, got our information, and boom, we did a 5-tier tray, for like charcuterie boards for weddings with all the fruits. And all of a sudden, a week later, when he had a wedding, we saw what we had done being used, and that was really cool. We got to meet a guy just reached out. He wanted to make a cutting board, I think, for his mother-in-law, and we made it. We gave it to him, and then after he saw the product, he said, in about a week, I'm going to give you another call. I'm going to have you make 7 for my employees. And we didn't know that he was he was so high up in his business. And next thing you know, we're making like custom cutting boards for, I think it was like the owner of Culver's here in Hickory. We were making it for a head chef at this catering service. We're making it for this head person, and he was gifting it to people. And it was like so cool for us to meet all these different types of people. Like some people want this style cutting board, others want this style. So to us, we were like trying to find designs, and it was like once you see that finished product, to us, that meant more to us, seeing how nice it turned out and that we could really help out somebody. And like we did, a young girl started up her own bakery shop, and we made her someone was buying her a Christmas gift, and next thing you know, we see it on Facebook with her own coffee shop or bakery, and it was our cutting board. So it's been more than just the money experience, but just to find a new hobby and to start something new. It's been a great experience.
I asked Coach Whitener what lessons he had learned in his first few months of running his business.
Always try to find something new to do. Find a way to enjoy things with people, and like it's never a bad thing to kind of just jump into something you're unsure of. To us, I never thought, and I'm honestly not a big people person. I let my fiance do a lot of the talking, but what I've learned is you have to make those connections with people. You have to find a way to do it. I guess my biggest thing to tell people is even when things don't seem to work out at first, you have to still give it a chance. And at first it was like, are we really going to make our money back? Are we wasting our time? Was this just something we wanted to do for us and not really look to sell, or what? And you run into that first problem at a craft show. Like I said, it was over the hurricane. We sold to other vendors there. Like people saw our stuff and they came in and bought, and we only made a few like sales. And honestly, it was kind of discouraging at first because you spend so much time and money into something and you're like, is this really going to be worth it in the end? And you just got to keep grinding. You got to keep going with it. And at the end of the day, it's turned out to be just a great thing that we enjoy and love to do.
Today's episode was created by the Forward Publications team. That was The Den. I'm Max Kinnaman. See you next time.